I served in the United States Air Force from 1970 to 1974. Was stationed in Texas, Mississippi, Maryland, Greece, and back to Maryland, where I was discharged on April 30th of 1974. I think Donald Trump handles the military much like political pawns or political, you might say, trying to think of the right word, as props in some of his interactions with the media. An example would be his use of active duty military in Lafayette Park this past June, where he took that as a photo op and used the military to disperse peaceful protesters. Another example would be his use of active duty military to try and counter what was later to be almost a fake kind of invasion from the southern border, when he sent active duty military to the border between Texas and Mexico. There was no such caravan that was an immediate threat to our country. And more recently in June, when he insisted on the cadet corps from West Point to return to campus so that he could have a photo op in June in the midst of a pandemic, which I don't think is necessary, and I think it put those gentlemen and women and their families at risk. So those are three, and there's probably a more troubling example how I think he considers the military or doesn't consider them, and that's how he's handled this allegation of the Soviet Union paying bounties to Taliban fighters, putting bounties on the heads of American servicemen and women in Afghanistan. He refused to confront or acknowledge that it was happening, and secondly, to even confront President Putin of Russia that was just inappropriate on the part of Russia to do that. So those are some examples that are very troubling in terms of active duty military. I would not want Donald Trump to be a member of my unit in the military, simply because Donald Trump is not a team person. Donald Trump is a me first, and he would not have my back or those of any service members in my unit. So I wouldn't trust him. I just don't think he's trustworthy. You have to earn that trust, and he hasn't done that with the American people, and certainly not with those people on the front line of our defense. I don't think a person, a man, a woman who's on active duty now would disagree. They not publicly, perhaps, because of the chain of command and those issues, but when he refers to generals as my generals, I find that very disturbing. When he berates generals who may disagree with his policies, when he makes decisions that are unilateral, that shows you that there's a clear break in the chain of command, and you've had generals resign because of that. There's unilateral decisions. So no, I wouldn't want him in my unit. I don't think the Department of Defense wants him in their unit either. Privately, I'm sure they are aghast at the way he behaves. If I could reach out to the veteran community in some public way, I would remind them of the sacrifices that they made, some voluntarily in the volunteer force, and many who served in Vietnam who were drafted into service. But they all went, those who did go, I should say. And I would want to remind those veterans of, if they need reminding, that hey, some veterans didn't come back, and some who did come back didn't come whole. They sacrificed greatly for our country, and Donald Trump took the easy way out. And worse than that, because he, a lot of guys, Bill Clinton, he took a deferment. A lot of other presidents haven't served. George Bush, the younger George Bush, his father was a hero. But when Donald Trump avoids the service, and now as a commander-in-chief talks about what he would do, he would go in with he would go in with a gun if they gave him one and go serve with our troops. That's so disingenuous. I would remind veterans that this is Donald Trump, who took a deferment for bone spurs when he was playing football or baseball at University of Pennsylvania while they were serving. I would remind them that he, as a commander-in-chief, it's really hard for me as a veteran to accept the fact that he's what you might call a sunshine patriot or a chicken hawk who wants to send other people's children to war. And as I say, when he talks about putting boots on the ground, whose boots are they? Are they members of his family, none of which have served? Is it him? He hasn't served. So to put others in harm's way, that's one thing. But to have a history like he has with little or no service whatsoever, I find it very disingenuous, hypocritical, call it what you like. But certainly when he cloaks himself in the flag and hugs the flag, I find it worst of all disrespectful of the veterans who served under that flag.